Hi there, Lou and John here, and we want to introduce today to you our new website called Beauty for Ashes.
Yeah.
And the strapline is Finding Faith in a Time of Crisis. Now, spirituality has been a long-established tradition in recovery, hasn't it?
Well, very much so. I mean, if we go way back to 17th century, then one of the cures for alcoholism was to actually board the drunk with a priest or a minister. That was the idea, that the morals would rub off and they would actually stop.
Yeah.
If we look at Alcoholics Anonymous, then what we find there is that, yes, there's a long tradition, because Bill Wilson, who was one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, actually started to get sober through an organisation called the Oxford Group, which was a Christian organisation. And that's where most of the 12 steps came from. They came from the Oxford Group. But more than that, when he was in a psychiatric hospital, he had what was a spiritual experience. And he wrote to the preeminent psychologist at the time, who was Carl Jung, and he told him what had happened. And Carl Jung said, well, I think that's actually the key to getting sober.
Okay, yeah.
And therefore, you really need to build it into the 12 steps. And that's what actually happened. But more than that, the actual idea of spirituality and recovery, and I'm not talking just about alcohol problems, was something that was brought up in the Lancet about 25 years ago, where they started to look at various physical illnesses like cancer and long-term illnesses, and spirituality, and how some people who had deep spirituality had better recovery, or if it was in palliative care, they had a sort of, shall we say, a less traumatic death.
So it won't surprise you then to know that we both have quite strong a spiritual part to our lives. It's been a bit of a dilemma for us because recovery and God are are linked with both of us really, but we wanted Bottled Up to be a kind of a place for people with faith or no faith, and so we've really stuck to that, which is why we've made this slightly separate. So you have a choice to come across. We really hope you will. Now, I've been a therapist for over kind of 35 years, and a lot of people want to explore kind of spiritual things, and so I think
that, many people, particularly if we start to talk about addiction, there is a kind of this, the sociologists call it ennui, this kind of feeling inside of nothingness, this kind of hole inside, and the likes of Dean Martin talked about being born two drinks behind the rest of the world, that they had this hole that needed to be filled. And again, if we go back to Jung and AA, they talked about the only way to fill this was to fill it with something spiritual, So there is a spiritual quest.
So, as many of you will know, that we've also had an awful lot of experiences in our life, a lot of trauma. Yeah. So it's a very experiential website. It's not theory. It's not doctrine. It's, in fact, in my room, I would say people exploring spirituality, about 3 questions they ask. First of all, does God exist? Yeah. And then they really struggle with this if they're going through things. Does God care? And then, can God help? So we've kind of made them as the 3 sections.
Yeah. I mean, you look at my recovery, and God played a big part in that recovery. How spiritual I was is another question. That's sort of something that grew, and that was the other aspect of AA, is that they talked about 2 things: a spiritual awakening and a spiritual experience. The spiritual experience being the sort of, the flashing lights, and the deep sort of emotional and psychological sort of happening then, whereas the spiritual awakening was more of a kind of slow burn, where people started to change, And let's face it, one of the things about, if you're going to recover, you have to change. Because if you don't change, then things are just going to be the same. And if things are still the same, then you're not going to change the habit of drinking, etc.
Also, I have to say, because John was an alcoholic, I lived with an alcoholic, the faithfulness and goodness and help that I received from God through all of that. That's where my faith was cemented, not in the good things, but in really struggling with the bad things. And I just don't know what I would have done. I just don't think I would have got through. And, this is a subject matter we've explored. This is a subject matter that other people say is helpful to explore. So we would invite you to come across. There'll be a link there under this.
Yeah, we invite you to come across. We separated it out for respect to yourselves. You know, that some people will find it incredibly helpful, and some people might be quite antagonistic towards it.
Yeah,
it's up to you.
If it's not for you, then feel free not to.
But one thing I will guarantee is if you do go over there, you'll find that there's no trite answers over there. We don't, there's no sort of sweeping, that's it, God will sort it. It's not like that. We don't do that sort of thing. If you've watched our videos, that's not us.
No.
We're not like that.
Definitely not.
Like that.
Yeah. Usual thing, not scripted. I'm learning about technology as I go along there because John was building the website, so you'll probably spot that as well. But anyway, I think that's all we really need to say, isn't it? Just to say
really is, it's beauty for ashes. Why beauty for ashes?
Okay, there's a passage in Isaiah that talks about comfort, talks about setting people free, so it talks about coming and helping you, giving you joy when you're depressed, and there's a whole passage, Isaiah 61, if you want to look it up.
Very briefly, what does beauty for ashes mean for you?
Well, where things beauty for ashes means out of pain and crisis, finding a way of life and help, support and growth.
Yeah. So that's the reason why it's called that. So if you want a bit of beauty for ashes, come and see us.
Yeah. Oh, it's just us to start off with. But we are going to get people to come and join. We're going to. I'm hoping to do a series, Where Was God When, and really get lots of testimonies and stories there as well.
But as you can understand, that's a wee bit more difficult because of lockdown. Right?
It's done during lockdown. So
you can tell by the hairstyle. I'm going in for the shabby chic. Yes, without the chic.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for listening. Do come and join us. Bye-bye.
Bye.